Hey everyone, Caroline Rail Fan Productions here, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Engines of Disney series. On this episode, we'll be taking an in-depth review of the Disneyland Railroad's number 5, the Walt Kimball. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. The Walt Kimball is the number 5 on the Disneyland Railroad, and is also the most recent locomotive to be put in service on the Disneyland Railroad. In order to find out how this recent locomotive began working at Disneyland, we have to go back to the mid-1990s, nearly 50 years after the park opened in 1955, and nearly 36 years after Ernest S. Marsh was put in service. When out of a desire to have 4 trains regularly running at once each day on the Disneyland Railroad, Disneyland began searching for an additional narrow-gauge steam locomotive to be added to the railroad's rolling stock. One such locomotive was acquired from a man named Bill Nord in 1906 in exchange for their combine car and 4 coaches for the Disneyland Railroad's Red Line 1 passenger train set. However, after the park received it though, the locomotive was too large for the Disneyland Railroad's operations. In 1997, it was sent to the Walt Disney World Railroad at the Magic Kingdom of Walt Disney World in Florida, where the locomotive was dedicated. Despite being too small for the railroad's operations, it was later placed on display outside the American Adventure attraction at Epcot, before being traded with a 40-type locomotive, and is currently in storage on the Cedar Point Lake Erie Railroad in 1999. The locomotive was originally named Mod L. Built by the Baldwin Locomotive Works in 1902, it was originally used to haul sugarcane at the Laurel Valley Sugar Plantation, Louisiana, owned by the Barker and Lefebvre Company. After arriving in Disneyland, the Mod L, later renamed after the late Disney legend Walt Kimball, like the locomotive which it was traded. It was also given a new cab built by Disney and a new boiler built by Hercules Power, which was subcontracted by the Superior Boiler Works. Due to budget issues, the restoration of the locomotive was suspended not long after its arrival, and its parts were planned to be placed in long-term storage in late 2003. The Walt Kimball locomotive's restoration efforts were resumed soon after, when it was decided its addition to the Disneyland Railroad would be already incorporated into the celebration of Disneyland's 50th anniversary in July of 2005. In late 2004, Bosch & Boiler and Restorations in Carson, California, led by Paul Boschen, a former roundhouse manager and engineer at the Roaring Camp and Big Trees Narrow Gauge Railroad in Felton, California, was awarded the contract to complete the restoration of the Walt Kimball. The restoration work performed included new driving wheels, attaching a new smoke box door, and applying gold leaf silhouettes of Kimball's Jimmy Cricket character on the sides of the headlamp. The Walt Kimball entered service on June 25, 2005, and became the Disneyland Railroad's number 5 locomotive. And on February 15th the following year, John Kimball, the son of Walt Kimball, who died in 2002, christened the locomotive during its dedication ceremony. In 2011, Walt Kimball's grandson, Nate Lord, became a Disneyland Railroad engineer and drove the Walt Kimball locomotive and still does this very day. The Walt Kimball, as mentioned before, was originally an 044 tank 40-type locomotive, but just like the Fred Gurley, it was turned into a 244 tank Boston-type locomotive, which means the locomotive has 2 leading wheels, 4 pairs of driving wheels, and 4 trailing wheels. Its water pressure is 150 psi, it weighs up to 46,000 pounds, its drivers weigh up to 21,000 pounds, its drive diameter is 30 inches, its tractive effort is 4,800 pounds, its cylinder diameter is 9 by 14 inches, and its fuel type is biodiesel. The locomotive also came equipped with a Lueckenheimer 3-inch 1-chime whistle. But later on, the locomotive was equipped with different other whistles, including a Crosby 4-inch 3-chime, Loringren 4-inch 1-chime whistles. It even wore Ernest S. Marsh's proud 4-inch 3-chime whistle for a short time. Here are a bunch of samples.
22 of the Disneyland Railroad Trainer. Thank you, please stay seated with
off in the distance, majestic Matterhorn Mound.
all children, making sure they're away from train opening. Our next stop will be Main Street, US.
Matterhorn Mound. Off in the distance, majestic Matterhorn Mound. Matterhorn Mound. The world just below us. And off in the distance, majestic Matterhorn Mound. Small world just below us. And off in the distance, majestic Matterhorn Mound. Around every bend, there's natural beauty. Off in the distance, majestic Matterhorn Mound.
Unlike the other four Disneyland Railroad locomotives at the time, the Ward Kimball is the only locomotive not named after a Santa Fe Railroad president, because the contract between the Ashton, Topeka, and Santa Fe and Disney expired in 1974. In addition, the Santa Fe merged with the Burlington Northern sometime in the late 1990s and early 2000s to create Burlington Northern Santa Fe, and there was no point in making a new contract between the two companies. The Ward Kimball is the only locomotive that never ran on regular oil when it began service on Disneyland Railroad, and was the first locomotive to run on biodiesel, while the other locomotives followed up sometime in 2007. Interestingly, the Ward Kimball is the only locomotive that has not been overhauled since it began service in 2005. Another interesting fact about the Ward Kimball was that during the closure of the Disneyland Railroad between early 2016 and mid-2017, due to the reshaping of the Rivers of America and the construction of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, the Ward Kimball was the only locomotive operating during that time frame, as it moved and switched non-operating locomotives to rolling stock of the railroad when they needed to be on display, and returned to pulling passenger trains again when the railroad reopened, along with the rest of the Rivers of America reopened on July 29, 2017. While the engine did have a wonderful and reliable reputation, the locomotive was involved with an incident back in 2019. In the afternoon of August 11, 2019, the Ward Kimball broke down on a trestle over the entrance to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and suffered a broken axle, forcing evacuation of the train. Thankfully, no injuries were reported, and the Disneyland Railroad reopened the following day. As for the Ward Kimball, it was later towed back to the roundhouse as its axles were later repaired and returned to service later on in 2019. The Ward Kimball is one of the most interesting locomotives to ever to run on the Disneyland Railroad. From another engine working at a sugarcane plant, to working at Cedar Point, to later on finding life working on the Disneyland Railroad. In addition, the engine is the only locomotive that has not taken part in the Fullerton Days event in Fullerton, California, as the engine is a donor locomotive in case of one of the locomotives of the Disneyland Railroad needed an overhaul or a rebuild. Despite that, the locomotive was lucky enough to be finished and ready in time for Disneyland's 50th anniversary, and later on took part in Disneyland's 60th anniversary as well, and also christened to wear the name of Disney legend himself, Walt Kimball, in his honor by his son John Kimball, back in 2002. The Walt Kimball will keep happily steaming into the future of the Disneyland Railroad, and will always be as part of Walt Disney's love and passion for trains. Well, we did it. We covered all 5 of the Disneyland Railroad locomotives, and I'd like to thank you all so much for joining me in the first phase of the Engines of Disney series. At the making of this video, Engines of Disney will go on a hiatus for a while, as I will be taking a break from it for now, and later on I will cover the Walt Disney World Railroad, as well as the Fort Wilderness Railroad in the coming future, so stay tuned for more events that follow. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more great content. If you like what you see, like, share, and leave a comment down below the description. I'm Caroline Rail Fan Productions. Have a good day, stay safe, and have a good one.